This is the Hyundai Palisade Calligraphy all-wheel drive. Now that's a bit of a mouthful, but it is a big SUV inside and out, and it's packed full of features. But with a price tag that's tickling a little bit over $80,000, is it worth your consideration? Well, that's what we're here to find out, so stick around. As I mentioned, this is the Calligraphy variant. It's available as a petrol two-wheel drive or a diesel all-wheel drive. This is the diesel, so it has an all-wheel drive system, and it also has a price tag just under $80,000, but that does not include on-road costs. Standard features include this 12.3-inch multimedia touchscreen, and that has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. There's also a wireless phone charger, a 12-speaker premium audio system, Nappa leather seats, and a whole lot more. The Calligraphy has 20-inch alloy wheels and a full-size spare on board. Exterior paint choices include burgundy, silver and emerald, which is on our test vehicle. For even more details, make sure you read my full written review at carsguide.com.au. In terms of design, the Calligraphy is at the top ranks of the Palisade range, so you'd expect it to look pretty eye-catching, and it is. It's got that real premium feel about it, inside and out. We'll get to the interior later on, but from that eye-catching grille all the way back, and I'm starting to like this colour, even though it does look a bit like black to me. Its official name is Rogue Emerald. It's actually, I'm catching onto it, but all in all, it's a nice looking wagon. The interior has a real premium look and feel to it. This is a cleanly designed space, and it's comfortable to be in. There are lots of soft touch surfaces, and it's pleasant on the eye. What's more impressive is that the build quality is superb, and the fit and finish, it just all feels so well put together. Once you've spent a bit of time in the Palisade Calligraphy's cabin, you get to realise just how comfortable it is. The seats are very comfortable and very supportive, and these are both power adjustable. The driver's is actually 12-way power adjustable, so you can really dial in your position. And there are so many things here. If you can find something that's missing, then I want to hear about it. Let me know in the comments section below, because I can't think of anything else you might need. There are plenty of storage spaces, there are plenty of cup holders, and there are plenty of charge points, including a USB up the front and 2 USB-Cs for each row of seating back there, so everyone should be fine with plugging their devices in. The second row is very comfortable, and it is quite spacious, and the passengers back here get access to a lot of controls, including climate control. The outboard seats are both heated, and you also get controls for the fan. You get some USB-C points up here, a couple of cup holders either side, as well as this handy sunshade on the window. That's helpful if you're trying to get some little ones to sleep. In terms of child restraint points, in the second row you have 3 top tether points and 2 ISOFIX points, and in the third row you have 2 top tether points and 1 ISOFIX point. The third row really is the domain of children, or you could put 2 adults in here that you don't really like. There's not a lot of room. I've actually racked the second row forward just a tiny bit to give me a bit of knee room. There are a couple of cup holders either side in the third row, and they do have access to air vents, and it will be comfortable for children, but it's a no-go zone for adults, I reckon. With all 3 rows in use, there is a claimed 311 litres of cargo space in the boot area. That doesn't mean a lot until you can see what you can actually pack in here. Now normally, maybe in a family review, you might expect to see groceries and maybe a pram, a few other bits and pieces. Well, that's not my style. This is an all-wheel drive vehicle, so I am driving on dirt roads as part of this test, so I want to be able to recover it. So I've brought along some MaxTrax, an air compressor, a first aid kit, and a tyre puncture repair kit. But remember, this vehicle also has a full-size spare under the body at the rear here. Our test vehicle has a 2.2 litre 4-cylinder common rail diesel engine, and that produces 147 kilowatts and 440 newton metres. It's matched to an 8-speed automatic transmission. This is an all-wheel drive version of the Palisade, so it has a system called H-Track, which stands for Hyundai Traction. It operates on the same principle as any all-wheel drive system in a city-going SUV, and that is it will direct power to the appropriate wheels to optimise traction. This vehicle also has drive modes, Comfort, Sport, Eco and Smart for on-road, and Sand, Mud and Snow, obviously, when you get off-road. Now, these drive modes are no substitute for four-wheel drive. This is, after all, not a hardcore four-wheel drive vehicle, but those modes are perfectly fine for when conditions get a little bit slippery, say there's a little bit of rain on the bitumen or the dirt track gets a little bit muddy. This is an easy driving wagon, it really is. It's nice and comfortable, it's refined, it's always composed and it's always controlled, and it's just an all-round nice drive. From the engine and the auto, which are a really nice pairing, not very dynamic to be honest, not very lively, but just a nice sort of consistent feel to it all. And being nice and consistent is really important with something that's intended as a people mover, as a family vehicle, because I mean that's what you want. Ride and handling are really well sorted out, and that ride quality, there's a little touch of firmness to the suspension, but otherwise it's nice and smooth in general terms. And there are the paddle shifters on the steering wheel if you want a little bit more input into shifting up and down in the automatic transmission, but otherwise you can let it just do its job, and it does it pretty nicely. There are 4 on-road drive modes: Comfort, Eco, Sport and Smart. Smart tweaks everything to suit your habitual driving style, and depending on which mode you opt for, it will tweak everything just to suit the terrain or the conditions you're driving in. And while this Palisade is pretty impressive all round in terms of performance and driving characteristics, there are a few niggles though. The driver assist tech can be a little bit intrusive, a little bit abrupt. The traffic sign recognition is pretty clunky, I must say. It picks up on signs that don't apply at that time of day, say school signs, or it picks up on signs that don't actually apply to that section of road. So it's forever chopping and changing between what speeds you should be at and what speeds you shouldn't. You can adjust those settings or switch them off in the Hyundai app that's on the touchscreen multimedia system, but they come back on when you get in the vehicle again. But apart from that, there's not a lot of negative stuff you can say about this vehicle. It really is a nice all-round city-focused SUV wagon. While the Palisade Calligraphy is not a true off-roader, of course it isn't, it's just an all-wheel drive SUV wagon, it does pretty well on the really light stuff. This track is pretty sandy and there are some decent-ish wheel ruts, but nothing serious, nothing hardcore, and this vehicle handles it all pretty well, I must say. The ride quality over some of the lumpier bits is pretty good. It's a little bit on the firm side, as you'd expect, because this is a more city-focused SUV, but it is perfectly reasonable on a very light off-roading track. I got to make that point clear, because you don't want to take this on something where you do need plenty of ground clearance and you do need serious off-road angles, approach, departure and ramp over, those kind of angles that you get in a four-wheel drive vehicle. And this Palisade has 3 terrain driving modes, and those are sand, mud and snow. And while I won't be using snow on this particular test, I have used sand because this is a pretty sandy track. I haven't been able to use mud because there is not a lot of water around. But all those driving modes do, they tweak throttle response, engine output, how the automatic transmission reacts to things shifting up and down, and a few other characteristics just to make sure that you keep moving and you keep moving safely, and everything it's a controlled momentum. And the good thing about an all-wheel drive vehicle over a two-wheel drive vehicle is you do have that little bit extra of a degree of traction, especially if you get into a traction compromised situation like a slippery, wet bitumen road or even a slightly muddy dirt track. All-wheel drive is designed to give you that little bit extra traction in a circumstance in which traction is compromised, and so hopefully when the time comes it delivers the goods. Fuel consumption is listed as 7.3 litres per 100 kilometres, and that's on a combined cycle. On this test I recorded 9 litres per 100 kilometres. Now, going by that on-test figure, this vehicle has a 71 litre fuel tank, so if you had a full tank you could expect maybe a driving range of almost 800 kilometres. This Palisade has the maximum 5-star NCAP safety rating, and that's from testing in 2022. As standard on board the Calligraphy, it has AEB adaptive cruise control, a 360-degree camera, and a whole stack of other driver assist technology. For even more details, make sure you read my full written review at carsguide.com.au. Every Palisade is covered by a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty, and roadside assistance is available if you have your Palisade serviced at an authorised Hyundai dealer. Service intervals are set at every 12 months or 15,000 kilometres, whichever occurs soonest. The Palisade Calligraphy all-wheel drive is a nice SUV to drive on road. It's composed and it is refined. It also makes a sensible daily driver, especially for those of us with children. That all-wheel drive system gives it a nice little advantage over its two-wheel drive rivals, but while it is far from perfect, it does so many things so well that you are willing to forgive it its few quirks. But what do you reckon? Have your say in the comments section below. And remember, for even more details, make sure you read my full written review at carsguide.com.au.